Good morning, everybody. The reason that I'm making this video this morning is because I think I need to tell you more about Lifepaths and my journey. First thing is, what is Lifepaths? Well, Lifepaths is a company I formed in 2000, just before my second wife died. And it was founded after I'd spent several years piloting and experimenting with different ways to free people's minds. And I should explain that I'm a qualified psychotherapist and hypnotherapist. I studied Ericksonian hypnosis, and I'm also an NLP practitioner, and I've also worked as a therapist. And I've come out the other side realizing that therapy does not work for a whole lot of reasons, which I won't explain here. And the reason why it doesn't work is because we are very complex beings, and there are so many self-destructive or metaphorically demonic patterns in us all that will almost certainly take us off any path we try to find. To use the analogy of children, a small child will, when pointed in a particular direction, very likely go in the opposite direction, and we all have an inner child in us that continues to want to do what it wants to do with no rhyme or reason. So let me tell you what we actually help people to do. I think every person has a feeling within them that there is something that they were born to do when they came here. And we go into an education system that exists primarily to put us into being widget makers from the age of 18 or 21. In other words, it's completely at odds. Everything about the education system is completely at odds with freeing our minds and also with realizing the true potential of who we really, really are. We are all spiritual beings, and we have a purpose, and that purpose is a purpose that we are allocated before we come here. When I was 5 years old, I mentioned this in an earlier video, I remember going outside and into my parents' garden, and it was just evening. I was looking at the stars, and suddenly I had a profound feeling of who I was and who I was meant to be. And I've never lost that feeling, but most of us do, because it's buried under all the rubbish that we absorb as we are educated by people who generally have chosen to fail. Most of us will have heard that phrase, if you do, do, if you can't, teach. Well, it's not quite like that, but teachers have, by definition, chosen to control the lives of people who are much earlier in their life than them. And education is not a good place for the world. It's not a good place for us. Perhaps that's why my mother kept me out of school for 3 years between the ages of 7 and 10, which would give me a completely different view of how everything really, really works. So, the key thing is a phrase from, I think, Socrates, which is, know thyself. And it's also quoted again by Carl Jung, who is probably one of the greatest thinkers of the 20th century, when he said, until we know what is going on within our unconscious, we remain prisoners of a merciless fate, or worse, that effect. And we do, because in the end, what comes out of most of our mouths is just coming purely from the ego, which is the least evolved part of our minds. It is the least sophisticated part of our minds. And very often, if I talk with most people, I can hear what's coming out of their mouth. I can hear in their tone of voice that something completely different is coming out of their mouth. I can see in their eyes they haven't a clue what's going on inside their brains. and I can feel in their energy and body language something entirely different. In other words, we are a complete mess. What we do, we help to unravel the mess that has been created, return people to a state where their dreams are possible, and every day that we're working with people, we challenge and help them to break their patterns, and there are literally thousands of these with all of us, that hold us back and will get in the way of the end goal of becoming the person we were born to be. So, where do we start? Well, we start with a very, very deep questionnaire that draws on my experience on my journey of 18 years as a music producer, as a producer of music videos, as a person who gets performances out of people in all kinds of ways that are quite magical. And that's what I want to get to. I want to get the answers to the questions from the deepest part of all of us. The questionnaire is done using a pen and handwritten, because handwriting creates the strongest energy to who you really are, and it also reveals the blocks to who you really are. And very simply, anybody who wants to achieve their potential should complete this questionnaire and should receive the report or reports that I personally, at the moment, will produce about who you really are and what you need to work through. In other words, it'll be a workbook for you to work through in order to become who you want to be. And there are people who just have me write the reports and do the questionnaire and gain a huge amount of insight, which helps them to find the path, at least the start of the path, on their own. In other words, I'm not actually mentoring them. And I do think that anybody should do that at the very least, because with this COVID-19 that we've gone through, the world is going to change in ways that we can't possibly imagine, and we are all now on the path to who we were born to be, whether we like it or not, because fate has decided that we need to stop pissing about in the way that we all are. Now, to give an analogy of what a person's potential is, I want to just talk about Christopher Columbus and what he did, because we don't really think about just how extraordinary some of the things that these people did were. Christopher Columbus, firstly, was a very, very good captain of a ship, because he had done it for a long time. But when he decided to realize his true potential, he had to persuade the King of Spain to put money, a lot of money, into a project which involved sailing to a country that no one knew existed but suspected, that would take you over what was believed at the time the edge of the world where you would fall off. In other words, there was an incredible feat of salesmanship by Columbus to persuade the king to put this money into a lunatic scheme. Then he had to persuade all the people who come with him to come on the same voyage, where they would know that there were risks of falling off the world, and that it would take a very long time, and that there may be no country there. Can you imagine how incredible that is? And then he actually went on the journey and discovered America and came back with all sorts of things and stories about what America was. I suppose if he hadn't discovered America, there'd be no Facebook, which would be a tragedy. But anyway, so what I'm saying is that the journey for all of us, whoever we are, is not a journey to a known destination. It's a journey to an unknown destination. And whether that journey is an internal journey or an external journey, we are all on a journey to discovering our own country, and we are all on a journey to climbing to the top of Mount Everest for the first time, or a taller mountain. This will seem to many people impossible, and that's why we all try and run away from this journey. But there is forces with us that will help us to get across the very difficult bridges. And I've been a pioneer on this journey, because I haven't lived my life like anyone in the world lives, because to achieve our purpose, you've got to get off living with the money-driven way that things are done. In other words, your end goal is what you've got to be aiming at. You've got to know, broadly speaking, what your end goal is, and you've got to make sure that everything you do is a part of you achieving that end goal. And the problem with most people who start on a dream or go into business is that they get deflected along the way because they worry about how they will pay the bills next week. What I help people to do is to lose that fear, because I'm like a guardian angel walking with those who choose to be mentored by me, and I will help them to make better decisions than they would if they were doing it on their own. I also understand the subtle and very complex rules that are underlying the journey to anybody's potential. And I will help anybody who works with me to actually discover what those rules are and start to follow them, because it is very important to follow those rules very well. And the videos I've already put up reveal some of the thinking and understanding that I have gained about what some of these rules are. And there are rules that are unbreakable. In terms of what the journey is, the first thing is that this journey is a lifelong journey. And in my case, it's taken me 18 years to get to where I am. And in that time, I have started Lifepaths, and I have worked a lot on myself. I have become a music producer. I write music, I paint, I write books, and I'm also looking for business partners. And when people work with me, I always have in mind that part of their journey may involve working in some way with me, because most of us, the biggest enemy is our own egos. And unless you are prepared to put yourself in a position where you are working with at least one other person, your ego will always destroy you. It's inevitable, because the ego is formed in childhood as we learn to protect ourselves against our parents and those close to us. But a child's view of reality is by definition not a view that will work in the real adult world. So I've worked with a lot of different people, and I have taken two of my clients, or helped two of my clients, to achieve membership of the Sunday Times Fast Track 100 Index, which is an index of the 100 fastest growing companies in the country in that year. And they started off in jobs, like most of you. They've still got a lot further to go, but they're both multimillionaires. I have helped a billionaire, a man who's now was worth £40 million. I started working with him, and he has gone on to become a billionaire. So we really do deliver what's on the tin. We do a completely different process to anybody else, and we are true mentors in the sense that we aren't just telling you how to do it. I am walking this very challenging walk myself, and I am walking beside the people I work with, and I do this and I'm there anytime in the 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, if necessary. In other words, I am really, truly on a voyage with you. So, please get in touch if the videos we've made inspire you and lead you to feel I would at least like to discover who I really am and what I'm capable of by actually doing the questionnaire and hearing the reports that I will do for you. And that's the place to start, because in the end, you can choose to work with me as a mentor later, or you can choose to jump on right at the outset. Thanks so much indeed for watching. Take care. Bye.
Listen to my beating heart, listen to my beating heart, listen to my beating heart, beating fast because of you. Walking by your side every day until I die. In disguise and full of love, I really like to try. A human is my master, but is that really true? Or was I really put here to help look after you? I may be mute and cannot talk, but what does that really mean? Could I be you and you be me if we could become a team? Listen to my beating heart, listen to my beating heart, listen to my beating heart, beating fast because of you.